Okay, this tutorial is for lesson 26A, and 26 contains a lot of different stuff. We're going to get into paper space, which is down here. You can see mine's currently on model space, but then you have layout 1 and layout 2, and we're going to get into those and called viewports and different things. So what you're going to end up seeing here is different tutorials for 26A, 26B, etc. until we get all the way through these. Also, keep in mind there's quite a few differences here between DraftSight and AutoCAD. And I know the book we're using is an AutoCAD book, so I'm going to be explaining the differences in the video. So make sure you pay attention closely and understand that when you're looking at the different settings and things in the book, that everything is not going to match exactly. But I will be going over all the differences in this video. So starting in 26A, it wants us to start with a fresh new title block. I'm not really going to do that. We are going to start with this current title block, but we're actually going to delete it and we'll follow all of the settings that the book wants us to do. So here we go. The first thing it asks us to do is go to File, New. Again, I'm just starting with lesson 24 that I left off with, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, and for right now, I'm just going to save this as 26A. And I'll come back later and save it as whatever the book wants me to save it as, but at least for right now I'm going to save it as 26A so I don't mess up lesson 24, which was the last CAD file I was working on. After that, they want us to change the units. Remember, you can go to Format, Unit, System, or you can type in the word units. And they want us to be on decimal, which I'm on, and looks like they want 3 zeros as far as the precision goes. And then everything else should be on decimal degree, 0, and of course we are on inches right here. So once you have that, go ahead and click OK. And now our units are the same thing that the book wants. The next thing the book wants us to look at are the drawing limits. So again, I can go to Format and Drawing Boundary, or I can type in limits into the command line. And currently my lower left-hand corner, as it says down here, is 0, 0, and that is what I want it to be. So I just hit Enter. And my upper right hand corner currently is 12, 9, and the book wants it to be 17, 11. So I just type in 17, 11, and I'm going to turn grid on so you can see this. So my upper right hand corner is going to be 17, 11, and I hit enter, and I double click my wheel, and there is my grid right there. And so I can't zoom out too far because it says the grid is too dense to display. But we're going to be making some changes on those in just a minute. I believe the next thing that the book does want us to do now is to change the spacing. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the grid spacing and go to the settings, and mine currently is set to my grid is set so it's a 1/4 inch apart from every dot. I'm going to change that to 0.5 and click apply, and now you can see that my grid is a bit further spaced apart. And again, my snap is set. Let's see what my snap settings are. I can right click on snap and go to settings, and that's 0.25 as well. So again, I can either check this box and so it matches, or I can simply type in 0.5 here as well. And now you're going to notice that my cursor is going to snap to every single point. And that's kind of how the book wants it. Again, I'm not going to use a whole lot of snap and grid, but one just kind of refresher. Since we made the paper size 17, 11, from this lower left-hand corner from there is 17 inches, and then from here to here is 11 inches. So this was 0, 0, and this is 17, 11, using the X and Y coordinates. Okay. After that, they want us to add in some layers. One of the reasons I used lesson 24 is because I already do have most of my layers set up. So we are just going to make changes to the layers that we currently have and get ours to look exactly like the book. And understand you're going to go through some changes here. Like the book wants us to have a red object layer. We're not going to be used to it, but we are going to follow the book just so you guys get practice on changing layers and things like that. So first thing it wants to do is look at the border layer. It wants the color to be red. So we'll go ahead and go with red. Continuous line type, that's what I have. And it wants 0.039, or it wants 1 millimeter thick. So I'm going to go here, scroll down until I get to 1, and that is good to go. It looks like center. They want center to be cyan in color. So here's cyan. I've got my center already chosen. Default, and then it wants it to print, so we're good to go there. Construction is next. It wants construction to be white. Change that to white. It wants it to be continuous, default, and then set not to print, which we already have our set not to print, so we're good to go there. Dimension is next. It wants dimension to be blue. It wants dimension to be continuous and default for the line weight, so I'm just going to go up here to default, and it's okay to print, so we're good to go there. After that we have a hatch. Hatch is going to be green and continuous, default, and able to print, so we're good to go there. Object is going to be red, continuous, and the thickness here is going to be 0.60. So mine was at 0.70, so I need to change that to 0.60, and obviously we want to be able to print those. Phantom is going to be magenta, and it's going to have a phantom line type, which I currently have, and it is going to be on default. Mine's at 0.7. I'm going to change this back to default, and it's going to be able to print. Next we have section. Here's my section one down here. Section is going to be white, and this needs to be a phantom line as well, so I'm going to go down here and choose phantom for section as well. So there we go for phantom. This one needs to be 0.8 millimeters thick, so a fairly thick line. There we go. And then text heavy and text light, again, I'll change this one here. This one will be text heavy. Caps lock. Text heavy. And text heavy is white, continuous, and default, so we're good there. I'm going to have to add a new layer. Call this one text light. And text light is going to be blue. And I believe that's the only other change we need to make there, so we're good there. It looks like I'm going to need to make another one, so this one is going to be called threads, and threads is going to be green and continuous and default and able to print. And last but not least is going to be viewport. So new viewport. Viewport is also going to be green, so that's good. It's going to be continuous, default, and we do not want it to print. Okay, so I've got my zero layer on here. Again, the book doesn't show a zero layer, but unfortunately it doesn't let us get rid of the zero layer. I've also got def points. Sometimes def points it lets you delete it, and other times it doesn't. Looks like it's going to let me delete it this time. If your computer doesn't let you delete it, don't worry too much about it. It's not that big of a deal. So again, that is setting up the layers, and we should be good to go for that. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I've got all my different layers changed up here, and I should be ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S so it saves everything I've done so far. Next we need to talk about our text style. So here's our styles toolbar. There's text style right there. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Currently I'm on Comic Sans, and the book wants us to do one called Class Text. So if you don't have one called Class Text, go ahead and go to New and call yours Class Text. Mine's probably going to yell at me because I already have one called Class Text. So here's mine. And it wants us to use sans serif. And unfortunately I could not find sans serif in DraftSight, so we are just going to use Comic Sans for ours. Comic Sans will work perfectly for what we're trying to do, so I'm going to make my class text be Comic Sans and click on Apply and click on Activate. So class text has the little yellow arrow next to it, so that is the active text style. And that should pretty much be all I need to do for text style. Click Apply, click OK. And last but certainly not least is checking on our dimension styles. And since we've already done this for lesson 16, and then we did this for some of the other advanced dimension styles, we're just going to go ahead and check on those. So again, here's our styles toolbar, and here's dimension style. You should currently be on class style, and if you do not have class style on this one, you either need to go back and find a drawing that does have class style, or you need to go back and redo lesson 16 and set it up so you do have a class style. In addition to having class style, you also need to have the different styles for diameter and radius that we made. I believe those were in like lesson 17 and 18. So you want to make sure that you have those as well, just so they're available to you and ready to go. Remember, standard and class style are completely different. Make sure class style has the yellow arrow next to it so it is active. And again, make sure you have these special settings for diameter and radius. Those may come in handy, but most importantly, make sure you have class style. And with the yellow arrow next to it. So go ahead and click OK. And now at the very end in the book, it tells us to save this as My Decimal Setup. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And then I'm actually going to go to Save As. And I'm going to save this as 26A, My Decimal Setup. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me one called 26A and one called 26A, My Decimal Setup. And I'll go into my computer later on and I'll just delete the regular 26A. And I'll keep the 26A in My Decimal Setup. So that is setting it up, at least in 26A, and we'll see you again for the next tutorial.